Climate change can shift the timing of the first menstruation or the first period. Over the past few years, we've come across multiple reports that talk about how the climate crisis has gender bias and that women are on the front lines of climate change. To discuss this in detail, we're in conversation with Dr. Shelly Singh, who's a gynecologist at Rosewalk Hospital. Thank you so much, Doctor, for taking out time and speaking to me.
Hi, Navya. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me here today.
Always a pleasure. Dr. Singh, many girls these days are getting their first period at the age of 8 or 9, and that is very, very young. At a time when climate change and climate crisis is affecting everything around us, do you think it's also affecting the first menstruation or the first period? Because some reports that I've come across recently talk about how climate change is the reason behind the onset of early puberty, both in boys and girls. What do you think about it?
Yes. So there are numerous studies which have found that climate change is affecting menarche, or the first onset of menstruation.
Yes.
And puberty is hitting boys earlier as well.
Yes.
And, there are numerous reasons for that. One reason would be that because of the global warming which is happening, because it is becoming so hot, indirectly, children are not going outdoors so much.
Yes.
Because they're leading sedentary lives, and because of the fact that obesity is also on the rise, what happens is that some of the hormonal changes happen in such a way that the body gets tricked into believing that this is the time for menarche, or this is the time for puberty.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons why this is happening. Also, when there are extreme weather conditions, for instance, where there are hurricanes and droughts and famines and avalanches and stuff, nutrition also becomes an added factor. So lots of times there is no nutrition which is available. Other times there is the wrong kind of nutrition that is available. So that is one of the reasons why, again, this is happening. And secondly, because of these extreme weather conditions, sometimes there are a lot of pollutants which are getting released into the atmosphere.
Okay.
So, there is something which is known as the endocrinal changing or disrupting chemicals which are released into the environment. So because of this, also, there is an early onset of menstruation, which is also called as menarche, and puberty is hitting children earlier.
Right. A recent report suggests that rising sea levels is limiting access to fresh water in Bangladesh. Now, what's happening there in Bangladesh is that women and young women or girls are losing access to clean water when they're on their periods, which is why they're forced to take pills. What do you make of these situations? Because this is just one of the incidents. This is happening across the world.
So, whether we talk about Bangladesh, this, of course, is a report that I've also come across. But then we also talk about the same kind of conditions which exist even in India.
Yes.
There are so many rural areas where, they do not have access to safe water conditions. Girls and women have to go long distances to even get water for drinking, leave alone for taking care of their menstrual hygiene. Most places, even in India, there are a lot of places which do not have menstrual hygiene products like pads, to say of other things like menstrual cups and tampons. So basically what is available is only dirty cloth. And a lot of times, that requires to be washed, it requires to be taken care of. Some of the places, they are needing to go to their elder maybe siblings or mothers or aunts or somebody, and they're taking oral contraceptive pills for themselves to basically stop the onset or to stop menstruation. And in case that is happening, that is a very sad scenario, because any hormones which are taken for reasons where it is not indicated at all is something which is going to lead to so many other problems, because there are so many side effects of the hormones, and it should not be done at a time when it is not really required.
We do understand that climate crisis affects the first period or the first menstruation. What are the kind of impacts that we're talking about on a woman's health when such things happen? Say, if a girl starts menstruating at the age of 8 or 9, what happens later in her life?
Yeah, so when a girl is about 8 or 9 years, you would see she's a very young girl.
Yeah.
She is not really mentally equipped to handle with all the emotional changes which comes along with puberty
Yeah.
and with growing up. So it has a huge impact and huge ramifications on the on the mental health of the girl.
Yes.
So a lot of times we have found that there are numerous disorders like sleeping disorders, insomnia. There can be eating disorders can happen. Sometimes there could be violence, which is also known because their hormones are running amok, and because they are not really so mature to handle all that, so you have more chances of violence. Sometimes even more chances of unintended pregnancies which happen, because there are huge sexual urges which are happening. Then apart from that, there are also chances that there can be depression, there can be even chances of suicides. So mental health, number one, that's the first thing that is hit. The other things could be fertility, because fertility, also comes with, you should have changes which come about at a particular age, because that is how nature intended it to be. Now, if it is going to happen at an earlier age, what happens is that there are again these hormones which come on too soon, and the growth of the children is coming on very early, but it's not reaching the complete potential that nature intended it to be. And there are some conditions which happen. For instance, very early onset of periods can lead to some problems like polycystic ovarian disease, endometriosis, and numerous conditions which affect the fertility of these young girls. So reproductive issues will be an issue, definitely. Apart from that, like I just said, that, since they do not reach their entire growth potential, sometimes they do not become tall enough. So they remain short and stunted. And that obviously has an effect on the bone health as well.
Yes.
All these parameters would get affected with either a very early menarche or even with a late menarche.
Do you think there's enough awareness when it comes to how much impact climate change has on women's health? Say something like menstruation. Do you think we're talking enough about it?
No, I don't think so, because various other features are actually thought about, they're talked about, but where it comes to climate change, I think that is one of the issues. It's climate change itself is not being spoken of as much as it should be, I feel, and more so where it comes to women, because I think at the end of the day, women, there is a certain gender bias, and women's health does come last. So the interface between climate change and women's health definitely should be spoken of much, much more. And I'm happy that someone, you brought on this topic and we're talking about it today.
What is the kind of awareness we're expecting when it comes to women's health?
I believe this should be done right from the time when the women are pregnant with these girls, because antenatally there is so much that needs to be known. You need to know what are the problems which can happen even when the baby is in the womb. What are all the kind of environmental pollutants that one is coming across? What will be the repercussions of those? What is the exposure to those, and whatever can be done. So it should start before the time that the girl is born. I would say that, first of all. Secondly, of course, as they become, as they start going to school, we do need much more health education, sex education, as well as education towards the fact that, we need to change our lifestyle a whole lot.
Absolutely.
So I'm not just talking of the rural areas, even in the urban areas. How many children do you know do outdoors so much? The way we used to be, we were always running around. We were always very physically active.
Yeah.
How many children do you see who have less of screen time? So I don't see, you have a small child. I have people coming into my OPDs, they have small children. Suppose she's pregnant and she has an elder sibling. Just to make that child quiet, they've handed them phones, and all of us are doing that, in fact. So, screen time is an issue, junk is an issue, the kind of environmental pollutants that are there is an issue. So the government must also take very, very solid steps to ensure that this climate change which is happening, and whatever we can do to reduce the carbon footprint, to reduce all the factors which are leading on to these things, they should definitely be judiciously done, so that we are able to manage whatever is happening in a much better way than what is happening right now.
Absolutely, Doctor. I think we pay attention to these details very occasionally. Recently, there was a report that came out that talked extensively about how there's the presence of microplastics in breast milk. Now, that report went viral and a lot of people started talking about it, but that's it. Again, I'd like to thank you for taking out time and speaking to me.
It was wonderful being here, Navya, and I'm really happy that someone is actually bringing these things to the forefront.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor.